2020. Please direct your attention to the Vice Chairman of the Board, Mr. Larry Ryan, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Larry, lead us away.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Good evening and welcome. Please be advised that this open meeting is being broadcast live and recorded by WRPS for playback on Comcast Channel 14 and Verizon Channel 31. It will be also available for online video on demand viewing at WRPSRockland.com within 24 hours of its conclusion, as are other recently recorded meeting and community events. Please go to WRPSRockland.com for further information. Okay, first on the agenda, community announcements. Doug, Rockland Healthcare Workers of the Week.
Thank you, Mike. This week we have two winners. We have a tie. The first person I'm going to read is Ms. Brittany Taylor, and Brittany's bio reads, hello, I'm a cardiac nurse at South Shore Hospital, as well as Beth Israel in Plymouth. I graduated from Quincy College, and I've been a nurse for a little over 4 years. I've worked in skilled nursing facilities and clinical and management roles, as well as acute care hospitals. I've lived in Rockland since 2015. It's an honor to have been chosen this week's Healthcare Worker of the Week. Thank you so much. And the next person is Carrie, I'm gonna try to pronounce her name properly, Wick. And Carrie wrote that she's very honored to be Rockland's Healthcare Worker of the Week. She's lived in Rockland since 2008, and she's been working on the inpatient psychiatry unit at Boston Children's Hospital for 20 years. And she's currently pursuing her master's in clinical mental health counseling. And she also is a volunteer foster care reviewer for the Massachusetts Department of Children and Families. And she's proud to be raising her children in such a great town. So I want to thank both of them. Those are excellent winners. And I encourage the public to keep nominating people for Healthcare Workers of the Week. It does not have to be nurses. It could be any healthcare worker. We encourage people to keep participating in this. And then one other announcement, if I could, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was pleased to be able to interview Police Chief Llewellyn on television last week in response to the protests and what's been happening since the killing of George Floyd and all the Black Lives Matter protests. I asked the chief about it because it's certainly a very difficult subject to talk about publicly, especially if you're a police chief currently. And he was very gracious and agreed to speak very candidly with me. And we talked for over 20 minutes. I think we had a pretty good discussion. WRPS recorded it in their studio. They put it up on their YouTube channel. And I believe it's gotten over 1,000 views so far. And we really haven't heard much negative feedback. I think the community sort of appreciates the different perspectives our police department has, both about the incident, the protests, as well as how we police and how we train here in Rockland. So I would just encourage the community to take a look at that video if they're interested in the subject and wanting to understand the perspective of the Rockland Police Department and the town of Rockland. And again, I really just want to thank Chief Llewellyn because he's working very hard. He's worked very hard for years, and he's putting himself out there right now. And again, it's on the WRPS website. We'll get you a link over to their YouTube page. And that's all I have right now.
Awesome, thanks, Doug. I got a chance to obviously watch that video, and I thought it was powerful and to the point, very, very poignant. And I thought both you and the chief did a very good job asking the appropriate questions, and I thought the chief's answers were very good and appropriate as well. So thank you. Anybody else have any other comments, Larry? You muted. Do we just let him go, or where are you muted?
Muted, yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry, Doug. Excellent job you guys did. So I can tell you. I'll cut it short now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry. Mike Mullen?
No, I don't have anything. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Chief.
Rich?
It was excellently done. Hats off to you and Chief Llewellyn.
And Kara?
Just job well done by Doug and Chief Llewellyn, as always. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda, open session minutes of June 2nd, 2020. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So
I'll
moved.
make a motion.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Penny,
Yes.
Ms. Diamond,
Yes.
and myself, unanimous. Next on the agenda, new business. The Board of Selectmen, in consultation with the town moderator, will consider reducing the quorum for the upcoming special and annual town meeting pursuant to the emergency legislation passed by the General Court and signed by the governor on June 5th, 2020. A copy of this legislation is attached. The legislation permits the town, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen and town moderator, to reduce the quorum contained in the bylaws from 150 voters due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. The Rockland special annual town meeting is scheduled for June 22nd, 2020 at 7 p.m. in the high school auditorium. Social distancing practices will be in effect, including possibly the use of other rooms at the high school. Doug?
Thank you, Mike. And I'm glad that you read the full notice that we put in the agenda. I appreciate you doing that, because that was really important, because the new state law that was signed by the governor had a very strict public notice requirement for this selectmen action. And we followed it to the letter and the spirit of the law, which required a certain type of posting, a certain type of announcement, at least 7 days before the meeting. So we obviously followed through on all that. Now, the main item that we're talking about, and I should highlight obviously that the town moderator, Kevin Henderson's here, and we've had a lot of conversations about that, and I'll certainly turn it over to him in a minute after I do my introduction. But the main purpose that we're talking about is, given the nature of the pandemic and how this is, not a good time to be having large crowds packed really close together indoors. The state has granted this sort of temporary relief where boards of selectmen, in consultation with a moderator, can temporarily reduce a quorum requirement if the town has a minimum quorum in their charter. And I should highlight, because I know we have one in Rockland, but just to highlight for the public, not every town has quorums, and some towns had them, and when they update their charters, they either reduce them or just eliminate them altogether. And as a side note on that, a lot of times when quorums get eliminated, turnout actually, under normal circumstances, goes up. It doesn't actually go down. So that's something I think we may want to think about as we have the Charter Review Committee going forward. But again, the main purpose is, given the pandemic, we need to have town meeting, and everybody's worried that it might be difficult to get a quorum, especially if there's people that don't feel safe, may have compromised immune systems, things like that. So the language under the law, and we included the full law in the notice and in your packet, and that's on page 12 of the PDF that I sent you, which is section 7 of the law. And it says that a vote of its Board of Selectmen, in consultation with a moderator, can prescribe the number of voters necessary to constitute a quorum, blah, blah, blah. I'll skip the legal mumbo jumbo. Basically, the selectmen can reduce it. However, the number cannot be less than 10% of the number that would otherwise be required. So what that means is, our quorum in the charter is 150, and what the law says is that if you choose to vote it tonight, the Board of Selectmen can reduce it to a number lower than that, but not less than 10%, so not less than 15 people. And my personal recommendation, and then I'll hear from the moderator, my personal recommendation is not to go to just an arbitrary, slightly smaller number like 100 or 75, because what if we only get 99 people or 74 people? So my personal advice is, go to the minimum, the 10%, the number 15, and we'll obviously get a lot more than that. but none of us have a crystal ball, and we can't say exactly what we'll get. You know, these are strange times, and you know, we're publicizing this heavy, and I want to make sure the public knows we're not setting a cap or a maximum number. If 300 people show up, we will accommodate 300 people safely at town meeting. So this is not a maximum. This is just the minimum, so we can make sure to get our business done, get our budget set. Maybe with that, I'll see if Kevin wants to add or change anything that I just mentioned.
Actually, just
Sure.
1 second before we
Yeah.
keep going. Chris Benik, are you still with us? Chris, I'm getting a lot of text messages coming in that people are having trouble viewing this meeting, that it's kind of jumping all over the place, and the audio is all over the place. Are you receiving it on your end? He said he was there, right?
I'll try to text him here.
Yeah, my phone keeps dinging. People are messaging me saying that they can't understand what we're saying and that the screen is jumping from black screen to black screen. Yeah, probably. That's
Mike, I'm aware of the situation. I'm dealing with it now.
okay. Are you still able to record us and for rebroadcast at a later
Yes,
point?
keep going.
Okay, and that's coming through okay?
Yes.
Okay, then we'll keep going then. All right. So Doug, your recommendation would be to reduce the quorum to 15, and we're going to turn it over to Chief Henderson, or moderator Kevin Henderson, for his input on this. Chief?
Thanks. Yeah, Doug and I have been talking and going over this since this was first introduced by the Senate. And it's going to be a very helpful thing, because obviously we've got 8 days left to get the budget voted, unless we want it ended up in July, which would just complicate matters even more. So if the board so votes tonight, and I don't expect only 15 people to show up, but I expect, if we can get started at 7 o'clock, we're going to be able to finish the business at hand, and the town is going to be able to continue to operate coming July 1st. Doug, I assume he's probably we met last week with everybody involved. The health agent was there, the fire chief, the police chief, Mark from the school department, town clerk, and we kind of mapped out. And Doug and I have already talked about Monday morning. We're going to make a trip through and have a run through with Dave Murphy to make sure we need the cafeteria, that they're going to be able to put a live feed in there. It's all going to work. We don't want to be doing it at 6 o'clock on Monday night. So I think this is beneficial for the town. The other person I was in contact with constantly when this first came about was John Riley, the town moderator in Abington, and they're following the same plan. They're having their meeting next Monday night, and in the most important thing, business of the town done, so the budgets can be carried out beginning July 1st.
And if I could just say one more time, Mike, just because I think it's super important, because people sometimes get confused. We're not taking away anybody's right to show up to town meeting. Everybody, we want people to come. Everybody can still come. This is just, the minimum to make sure we're able to get it going if we get something less than the 150 that's normally required.
That makes perfect sense. So I'll go to the board. Any further discussion, Larry?
Nope.
Mike?
No, I don't have any questions at all. It's a perfect sense. Everything makes perfect sense. I want to thank everyone, including, our moderator, and coming up with a plan that works and that's safe. And, Ian, we were able to get the business of the town done. So, the 15, the quorum of 15, definitely works for me. And hopefully we'll be able to go forward with that.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Rich?
No comments.
Kara?
Makes sense. Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Okay, with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to lower the town meeting quorum for June 22nd, 2020 town meeting to 15.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor? Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Yeah, I got you, Mike. So, yes. Mr. Penny?
Yes.
Ms. Nyman?
Yes.
And Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Okay. So quorum for this year's town meeting will be 15. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, common vicular license for new business, Roy's Kebabs, Roy Shaheen, 900 Hingham Street. Doug?
Yeah, this is pretty straightforward. You know, this is one of the restaurants that's right near TK O'Shea's in that plaza, and I think it's changed over periodically, is what I'm told. But they followed the process, and you know, we recommend approval.
Motion
Okay.
to,
I got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Mr. Penny?
Yes.
Ms. Nyman?
Yes.
Ryan?
yes.
And Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
And myself. It's unanimous. Welcome to Rockland. Next on the agenda, a vote to grant temporary relief from licensing and zoning issues per governor's COVID-19 phase 2 reopening plan. Lucas South Shore, 933 Hingham Street, 99 Restaurant and Pub, 29 Acord Park, Route 228, Mike's Pizza, 315 Union Street, and TKO Shays, 932 Hingham Street. Doug?
Thanks, Mike. So we've talked about this at the last meeting where the state gave really extraordinary flexibility to cities and towns to amend licenses, both food as well as alcohol pouring, given the pandemic and so many restaurants are really struggling to be able to have outdoor seating. So what we did was, you know, working with town council, we were very proactive. We put out a letter that we sent to every single restaurant in town, asking if they, you know, were going to seek some relief and wanted some flexibility in this area to have any kind of outdoor dining. And just to really get ahead of it, we sent it out early. We asked a series of questions saying, you know, please tell us what you want to do, where it's going to be, how many seats, etc. And we physically mailed it by US mail. We emailed it, and Deli also called every single restaurant. She's been calling them all the way through anyways. So what we're here tonight is to talk about the four requests that we have, which we do recommend approval. And before I get into the details in the process, I just want to explain what's in your packet. So we have some information from the State Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission with some of their guidelines. There's a couple of pages from the DPH, the Department of Public Health, with their checklists and guidelines for restaurants, and as well as the DPH safety standards. Then probably the key document is on pages 33 and 34. That's where we summarize our recommendations for the four restaurants. So I'll come back to that. And then following that, starting on page 35 for the rest of those pages, are the actual submissions that we received from each of the restaurants, you know, indicating what they wanted to do. And I just want to highlight that we really tried to be as simple and easy and as flexible as possible. A number of other towns, you know, came up with very long, detailed applications and forms that had to be filled out, and we didn't do that. You know, we just put out this letter. We followed up with calls and emails. We said, just tell us what you want to do. We'll help you get it done. So we got the requests from these four places. Then Deli met, our health agent Delshawn met with our building inspector, Tom Rubel, police chief and fire chief. They discussed it, followed up, got a little clarifying information. Then they actually did site visits at each of these locations just to make sure that everything was safe. You know, making sure if something's set up in a parking lot, you know, that individuals sitting at a table wouldn't get hit by a car going by, you know, just things like that, making sure access and egress, you know, would all be appropriate. So the bottom line is everything we're submitting to you tonight, we are recommending approval, and we're on the same page with the restaurants. I thought I'd just very quickly go through the four. Luca's is the first one on Hingham Street. They're looking to do two tents behind the building. Just want to go back to this. They're looking to do two tents behind the building. They're constructing a patio. Hours of operation, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And for each of these, we're putting some conditions which we think are very reasonable. Things like having the building department and the fire department inspect the tent, making sure we have an updated certificate of insurance, which I should highlight, we've already received from all of them. So, none of these things are issues. Having, the fire department sign off on everything, including the tent. Same thing with the building inspector with the restrooms, and they have to rope off and delineate the patio area. The 99, and obviously Lucas owns the area in question. The 99, they're looking at the parking lot area to the left side of the building, having some picnic tables out with umbrellas, really a very simple solution. They're also going a step further than some of the others and actually keeping a contact tracing log, which is a good thing. They're looking at 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. There's no tent required here, so we're just looking at fire department, building inspector sign off, and the insurance certificates, which we've already received. Mike's Pizza is a little bit different. They're just looking to put a few tables out in front of the restaurant on the sidewalk. Hours of operation, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Same general things, fire department, building inspector sign off. The only thing that's different for Mike's than the other three restaurants is Mike's is looking to use the sidewalk, which they don't own. That's owned by the town of Rockland. So there we're just going to require a very simple, like 1 or 2 page license agreement. A license agreement is just essentially a document that the town gives permission to Mike's to use the sidewalk. It's like a permission, like a formal kind of permission slip. And then the only other part associated with that, since they're using town property to operate their business, having their insurance certificate updated to denote that it includes the sidewalk area, again, which we've already received. And then lastly, TKO Shays is looking to use, it's essentially just 4 of the parking spaces directly in front of the restaurant, have 6 tables enclosed with jersey barriers, and they're looking at 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Same thing, all the standard building inspector sign-offs. There, since the owner of the restaurant doesn't own the parking lot, we just want to make sure that we have written authorization from the landlord of the plaza that they are allowing them to use the parking lot, which we know verbally is the case, and we'll just get that in writing, as well as their insurance certificates. So it's all pretty straightforward, and I believe everybody on the call, which we can certainly give an opportunity for Deli, Scott, and Tom to see if they want to chime in, but I know they've personally talked to the owners, they've done site visits, and we're all good, and we've gotten it done really quick. So with that, I'll turn it over for questions or comments from the others with me here.
Okay, so I'll open it up to the board. Kara, any questions for Doug, Scott, Kelly, or Tom?
I don't have any questions. Looks like a really thorough plan in place, and just want to thank you all for your hard work on this, and excited to get these businesses up and running in Rockland.
Thank you, Kara. Larry?
Yeah, I'll just follow up with Karen.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah, ditto to what Kara and Larry said. Thank you, everyone.
Rich?
Thank you to everyone for helping get this done, and it is long overdue.
Okay, and myself, yeah, I agree. I think it's time that we start getting some of these places back open. I appreciate that you guys were able to be so flexible with these businesses and allow them the capacity that they're allowed to have. I think it's important, and I always appreciate the cooperation that you guys provide to the local business community. So thank you for that. I'll entertain a motion to approve all 4.
Make a motion.
I have a motion. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Mullins,
Yes.
Mr. Penny,
Yes.
Ms. Nyman,
Yes.
and myself, that's a yes as well. Okay, thank you guys. Appreciate
Great,
it.
thank you, Mike. And if I could make one more request on this same topic, I believe, well, I know that, these are the only restaurants that have asked for this flexibility because others either don't have any space that they could do outdoor dining, or they just simply don't want it because they're doing fine with takeout and it's just not worth their while for a limited amount of outdoor. But just in case something else does come up where we get another request, tomorrow or the next day, I think it'd be helpful if you vote to grant my office the authority to provisionally approve any new requests we get with final approval coming from the board at the next scheduled meeting. That way we don't hold anybody up. If that's
Yeah,
okay
Doug,
with you, that would be helpful.
Doug, you and I discussed that last week, and we were okay with it. I was fairly confident that the board would vote in favor of these plans, but we can do that as well. So I'll entertain a motion to.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you much. In a second.
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 Good.
All those in favor, Ms. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
and Mr. Penny.
Yes.
Great,
And
thank you very much. And I assure you, I'll follow the same process next time. I'll check with all the experts in town hall, and we'll continue to respond quickly. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. Next on the agenda, annual appointments. ADA Committee, Dennis Robson, 3-year term.
Motion to appoint.
I got a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, Mr. Penny,
Yes.
Ms. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
and Mr. Mullen.
Yes.
Okay, and Plymouth County Advisory Board, I think we should table this one. I gotta think there's somebody better in Rockland that we can find to do this position.
I'm the best, Mr. Chairman.
Boy, things are really going bad if you're the best.
I know, right? I don't know. We can table it. We can put it out there, advertise the position more. Or
Well, it has to be one of us, so I think I'm
Or
the
I can-
best out of the 5 of us, Mr. Chairman.
There
of
you are.
course, or we can entertain a motion.
Appointment.
I will make that motion.
I'll
All
second
right.
it.
All right. Reluctantly, we can go to a vote on this. Mr. Mullen. No, you don't even vote for yourself. Kara,
Yes.
Mr. Penny,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
I can't believe I'm doing this. And myself, yes, it's approved.
I'm
Thank you.
honored.
You own me
Thank
for
you.
another year. Yeah.
Can we
Okay,
can-
next on the agenda.
Huh?
Next, FY21 112 budget submission to Department of Revenue. Doug?
Thank you. So we've talked a lot about having town meeting in June versus actively pursuing a 112 budget, and we know we're doing the right thing by having town meeting next Monday night. But in talking with Biz, it really makes sense, just in case there's, I don't want to say it out loud, but just in case there's some emergency that happens that prevents us from holding town meeting. It feels like these days anything's possible, right? We should cover our bases, have an approved 112 budget that's sent to the DOR just in case. So we don't plan on accessing this or utilizing this. It's just a backup in case there's a disaster and we can't hold town meeting next Monday. So Biz prepared the numbers. It's pretty straightforward. It's in your packet. It's both the 12th of the budget, and it's not maybe necessarily a simple 112th. That's what we expect to incur in that first month. And then there's also the revolving funds limits as well.
Okay. I'll
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
I got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Penny,
Maybe he left the
Yes.
meeting in
I'm
protest.
sorry.
Yep.
Yes.
I got you. Okay, thanks. And Ms. Nyman.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right. The next on the agenda, other new business not reasonably anticipated. Doug, is this where we're going to go to Youth Services, Youth Commission?
I was going to do that under the COVID update, but which is the next thing. So
Okay. All right, that's fine. So we'll move on. We'll go to old business, COVID-19 update, COVID-19 deficit spending authorization update.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe as just a very quick intro, the most recent numbers I got from Delhi were we currently have 69 positive cases in town, and most recently 124 people have recovered. And I know we had a good stretch recently where we actually had no new cases for several days. So we're actually doing pretty well. It's just like, most of the Commonwealth in total is doing pretty well. But I did think as it related to a COVID update, it would be helpful for Rich to speak a bit about the parks and for Jean to talk a bit about the Youth Commission, just because they've been having to adapt. Some things are opening up a little bit more now. Jean's had to cancel a whole bunch of things, so I just thought it'd be helpful for you and for the public to get a little update from them. So maybe whichever one of you wants to go first. It looks like Rich's mic is off, so maybe we'll have him go first.
At this time with Delhi, we've worked out a plan to reopen the parks. They're all open right now under the state guidelines. Basically, you can have 10 people on the field at a time, social distancing, and we only have baseball right now, different levels of baseball that are trying to get something going. Soccer is closed right now, lacrosse, but the fields are open. People can use them, groups of 10 or less. We are getting new signage to put on the fields with social distancing and the rules. Hopefully I'll have them by the middle of this week and get them out there. The basketball courts still seem, everyone who wants to hop the fence and get in there and play, we're chasing them off the fields, off the basketball courts, but that's a daily thing now. That's about it. They're open, they're available, people can go out. They've always been open to walk and get around, but it's the groups that want to get out there and try to do some practice and get the ball around stuff. And that's open, ready to go. Any questions?
Okay. Yeah. Anybody have any questions for Rich? Larry?
And
Larry,
each
All right.
group,
Doing a great job.
each group, by the way, has appointed people to oversee the guidelines, and they will be at the games and they will be checking on everybody, and that way they keep a handle on it and try to cut off any problems before they come. So each group has somebody responsible for that while they're at the fields.
okay. Mike Mullen?
No, I don't have anything. Thank you, Rich.
Kara?
I don't have any questions. Thanks, Rich.
Rich Benny?
No questions. Thanks, Rich, and good luck in the
Yeah,
retirement.
thanks.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. Rich, this might be the last time that we have you. Well, no, probably Parks Department, but as an active member of the Rockland Fire Department, 36 years, and you have 34 hours left to go. We appreciate your service to the town and your continued service with the parks. Obviously, hopefully, you're not going anywhere on that front, but thank you very much. You made it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I'm not. I hope I'm not going too far. Just stay at home a little bit more.
There you go. All right, Jean, any update?
Yeah, Rich will have more time to spend at the Youth Commission at the community center now, so I can take a few things off my plate. Just kidding. So as you all know, that we had to cancel our summer camp program that we run every summer at Hartsuff Park, and it was a really, really, really difficult decision. I know that people in town depend on that every summer. I know that the kids look forward to it. But after great consideration, talking to Doug and Jen and Deli and Rich and my board, it just didn't make sense. It wasn't going to be what it was. The restrictions were too difficult to get around. It would end up being a lot more expensive than what I normally run my program for, and the risk was really great. And at some point I had to let the staff know, because I did have most of my staff returning this year, and those kids needed to go and find other jobs. So I thought it was the most responsible thing for me to do at this point in time to cancel that program. However, as we all know, things change, quite often in this crazy world that we're living in right now. And some of the guidelines have changed. So in talking with Delhi, we went over some additional restrictions that we thought might fall into this, but I've come up with programming for at least the next 4 weeks. So starting July 6th, and that would be phase 3. I came up with programming that would be 1 hour, actually really 50-minute programs. We still have to make sure that parents are staggered coming to and from programs. And there's other restrictions we need to follow, so we need a little bit of time to do that. But parents should be looking for that. That should come out within the next week, by the end of this week or by the beginning of next week. And so that would start July 6th, as long as phase 3 is in process. So that's what we're doing, and we're getting the pond ready. I should have mentioned that. So the Parks Department is having it drained actually tomorrow, and we've one of our pumps is down, so we've got I think that's an ongoing scenario whenever I talk to you guys. So one of our pumps is down. We're going to take care of that. We had to take care of some electrical work. Chlorine just seems to eat things away, but we're going to get that up and running, and I'm hoping that before July 6th, if not on July 6th, that'll be in motion, and almost all of our lifeguards are back. So with that, I know Chief Duffy's not here on the call anymore, but we've already talked about still doing our training because it's a matter of public safety. And I think what the public should understand is that there's going to be, it's going to be different at the pond. All the kids are going to be swim tested. If they can't, then they've got to swim in a certain section that the lifeguards tell them. When public shows up, they actually need to check in with us and give us their information. We take that information, and it is only for use should there be an outbreak. So it's for tracing purposes. And so it'll look a little bit different. You know, the guidelines right now are 12 feet apart. I think in phase 3, they become 6 feet apart. I know Jen's asked me several times, so how many people does that mean? And I said, well, it kind of depends on how many people show up. So we don't really have a capacity number yet, but we're working on that. So I think that's about it for now. Did anybody have any questions or anything?
Well, Gene, I'll tell you, talk about burying the lead. I was sitting here thinking that you were canceling the pond in general. That was going to be my question. Like, well, what about the pond? I mean, there's chlorine, right?
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, there's beach restrictions, and under phase 2, 12 feet apart from your 12 feet apart, a radius 12 feet apart. I think that's like the whole front part of the beach. So it doesn't make sense to go by those regulations. But once you get 6 feet apart and you're a little bit closer, I think that's a little bit easier to swallow for people. And I know
Sure.
Pete's gonna go down there, and he's gonna push back some of the brush so that it's a little more open, and we're able to accommodate more people down there.
Sounds great. Any questions from the board? Larry? You're on mute, by the way. Larry, you're on mute.
That's all right. Hope it all works out for everybody. Doing a great job.
Mr. Mullen.
Yeah, Gene, I just want to thank you. You know, this has been a more than 3 month ordeal, you know, for you and your staff. And obviously we have a number of town departments that have been and who have been affected by this in terms of their operation. In terms of the 2 departments that I believe, in addition to our public safety, that's really bore the brunt of all this, has really been the schools and the youth, you know, commission, based on, you know, the interaction, like in the senior center as well. But, you know, the interaction and the, like in the programming that you do relies on people coming together, working together, kids coming together and play. And you've had to recreate, you know, to an extent, the whole, really model of everything you do. And I'm sure it's been, frustrating, overwhelming, and everything else. But I just want to say thank you. Everything you do for our town really shows everything that your staff does shows, and and we appreciate it, Gene.
Mr. Penny.
Gene, thank you. I know this hasn't been easy for anyone. I know for you, things continually change, and you've been working diligently trying to figure out what you can do for the youth of the town. So I just want to say thank you, and I hope I hope it works out. I know you're working hard to put programs together that fit within the guidelines, and hopefully, the kids find fun. So thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Kara?
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Gene.
So Gene, I just have a question. I mean, you talked about, design programming, but one of the things that has been a staple in the town for many years has been the teen center. It's been a great outlet for the kids that age to get out, and it keeps them from getting into trouble out there. Any thoughts on, obviously, I guess not an opening of the teen center, that would probably go in line with the schools, but programs for these kids during the summer?
So that's actually a great question. I did a survey for all of the programs, and I wanted to know what the public was looking for. And kids ages 12 to 14, no surprise, it came back basketball.
Yeah.
These kids want to play basketball. The teens that come to the teen center, you're right, no thoughts on opening. I think we're all kind of waiting to see what the school does to follow their lead in a lot of these things. And then I have a recreation group that I belong to, an association, and there's daily updates and constant Zoom calls that you can join to get information on what they're doing. So I'm in touch with other rec departments. No one's really talked about any teen center, but for teen programs, I know that Mike Doyle will be working for us this summer, and we're talking basketball, soccer, street hockey, workout warriors, and I'm in conversation with a new archery instructor and a mountain bike riding instructor. So hopefully, and in addition to that, sorry, we have a couple more ukulele lessons, an art program, and arts and crafts. So hopefully they'll like some of those things and they can join.
So I will just say, it would be, I would consider it to be a tragedy if this program was not able to come back. I mean, that program has been on the brink so many times, time and time again, and somehow you've managed, and other staff prior has managed to keep that program afloat. If this has ended that, then that'd be very, very unfortunate, because I think it's one of the real gems in the town of Rockland. So.
Thanks. No, I mean, I think in the very least, when we still have the good weather, maybe there's stuff that we can do outside during the school year, especially if kids have to go back to virtual learning. I think that group sizes will be limited, so that will be a little bit difficult. But we are looking at doing a fundraiser in town, so I'll be back to talk about that. None of the details have been worked out yet. And so we're really hoping with that we can fund the teen center and offer some scholarships for some of our programming in town. So that's what we're hoping for.
Sounds great. Thanks, Gene. Keep up the good work. I know it's ever changing, but stay with it.
To say the least, for everyone.
So, all right. Doug, anything else on the COVID-19 update?
If we could just vote, we put a letter in the packet to.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
yeah.
the deficit spending. That.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And so just to be clear, what we're doing is so that the state is allowing us to deficit spend all types of expenses that are related to COVID. And our initial request that we had to you that you approved was a specific dollar amount that we thought was like a good limit. Then we were going to increase it again because we're putting in for as much reimbursement as we can for appropriate reimbursable expenses. And then in talking with Biz, she had an idea, and I totally agree, which is let's just increase the request right now up to the maximum allowable cap that the county has given to Rockland in phase one. And our phase one cap is $787,172.12. So this way we won't have to come back if we, as we increase our, projected reimbursement request to be funded from the CARES Act. So this way we'll be one and done, and we'll just keep going with it. So that's our request.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the request.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, Mr. Penny,
Yes.
Ms. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Larry, and Mr. Mullins.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, myself. All right, that's unanimous. Next on the agenda, town election and annual town meeting update. Doug.
Yep. Thanks. I just wanted to say on that last item too, I just want to thank Biz and her team because all this CARES Act reimbursement, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of administrative work, and the county's making up new processes, and so that this isn't just like clicking a button and submitting. There's a lot of legwork. So I just want to thank them for that. But I just want to assure the public, we are aggressively capturing every penny of reimbursement that we can get to help. So thank you to them for that. On town meeting, I just really wanted to mention two things. One is the quorum, which you guys have already reduced, so that's extremely helpful. And then the next thing I thought would be helpful is something Kevin alluded to earlier, but I just thought I'd amplify it a little bit more, which is the kind of the precautions and all the procedures that we're going to be putting in place for town meeting, because we do want people to know that we're going to be putting together a safe town meeting for the public, as safe as it can be in this environment. So we're asking everyone to wear masks. And we're going to have a supply of masks on site as well, just in case somebody forgets theirs. We're also going to have fire department personnel at the door that can take people's temperature if they allow that and request it. And it'll be touchless. They'll have the infrared temperatures, because if someone has a fever, would not be the best thing to have them come in the town meeting. So we're going to be keeping people 6 feet apart outside, where people are going to be having masks. All the workers that'll be checking people in will have appropriate PPE, and we'll be behind plexiglass. Once we get into the auditorium, we're marking it out and spacing it out. We're going to most likely have a section that's going to be reserved for family members. So if you want to come with your wife, you two should be able to sit together and shouldn't have to be 6 feet apart, and that'll help us put more people in the space appropriately. So we'll have a family section, and then we're going to have things spaced out accordingly. We're going to have a number of town employees that are volunteering to be ushers that can help make sure people get in the right spots. We might be able to fit everybody safely in the auditorium, because we're also going to put a lot more town officials up on the stage than we normally would. So we may have other officials like selectmen or some finance committee or others up on the stage to free up more room in the seats for the audience. Then if needed, we're going to have the cafeteria set up, and there'll be some video and audio. There'll be an assistant moderator there and an assistant town clerk there as well. So we've already had the initial walkthrough, which Kevin talked about, again, which Delhi and the chiefs and the schools were all, and I should highlight Mark Sham and his team are obviously a tremendous help with us. And we're going to have another follow-up walkthrough again on Monday, just to be doubly sure. But we feel confident, that we'll be able to pull this off. I was at the Sandwich Town meeting last night. They were successfully able to do it. The turnout was a lot lower, as you can expect, but the crowd there was very compliant. Everybody wore a mask all through the meeting. There was no issues. Things were sanitized. So we feel very confident that this will be a safe environment, and we don't have to worry about outdoor conditions or outdoor accessibility or things like that. I don't know, Delhi or Kevin, did I miss anything? Maybe one other thing, I'm sorry, before I ask you guys, is as a reminder with the warrant, there's a total of, I think, 5 articles now that we're not going to have to actually vote on, which is good. It's going to make town meeting go even better. There were 4 articles related to zoning, related to adopting FEMA flood maps, which the town did everything correctly on time with the planning board, with public hearings. FEMA at the last minute has pulled the plug on that. Not only have they said don't do it, they're directing towns that have adopted them to actually go back and rescind it and undo it. So it's printed in the warrant. We're just going to indefinitely postpone or pass those articles over. And then lastly, the last article, which is the citizens petitions for single-use plastic bags. I've spoken with the petitioner. Now is not the time. He's asked that we postpone or pass over that article as well. So there'll be 5 articles at the end to help make the meeting go even quicker.
Okay.
Kevin or Deli, did you have anything to add that I forgot?
No, I think Doug, that you covered everything, and I do want to reiterate what you said. We still want people to come to town meeting, and it's not. And this is a one. Hopefully, it's only one time deal that we get by coronavirus. And this law that they passed, I believe, expires 35 days after the government releases his state of emergency. So it isn't like something we can do every year.
Chief, are you going to be wearing a mask as you moderate?
No, actually, under the regulations, I can be exempt when when I'm talking at the podium. The other thing I'm gonna ask people, anybody that wants to get up and speak, whether they're a town official or there is going to be another microphone on the stage, and I'm going to ask the town officials or voters in the audience, they do not grab the. It'll be set at a height, and hopefully Dave, control center, the auditorium will be able to control. So up or down, handle that. But we will have wipes that will take care of that.
Okay, sounds good. Deli, anything?
Nope. Thank you, Doug, and thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Chief.
Okay. Doug, other old business not reasonably anticipated?
Nope, nothing tonight.
Okay. Town administrator report and correspondence.
No, my main report was what I mentioned earlier with the interview with Chief Llewellyn, and really essentially what Kevin just said, which is, encouraging people to attend town meeting. It's always important, and for the first time in my professional career in this type of environment, having to delay until late June, we're in extraordinary times, but we want people to show up. Let's get town meeting. Let's get the budget done. Let's move forward to getting the state budget. And hopefully we won't have to make any further changes with a special town meeting later in the summer or fall. Thank you.
That's it? Okay.
That's it. I'm taking it easy tonight.
Wow, that was quick. Selectmen's comments. Comments and opinions expressed by individual members do not necessarily reflect the views of the Board of Selectmen and are the opinions and comments of only the individual member. Mr. Mullen, will you be quick tonight?
Yes, I think so. But if I can, Mr. Chairman, I just want to, just remind everyone to get out and vote on Saturday, town election, and I wish we had more options for the selectmen's race, but here we are where we are, and that being said, Mr. Chairman, I think the group that we've had working for the town over the last a year and a half, 2 years, however long it's been, has been one of the best groups, and at least that I can remember. And I just want to wish you and Kara well, and really, despite the challenges we have right now, we do have a lot of good things. Really good things happening, really good things going. All of us are working together with all of our dedicated departments and department heads really well. So I wish you luck, Mike and Kara. That's all.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Ms. Nyman.
I do not have any comments tonight, but thank you, Mr. Mellon, for your comments.
Thank you, Kara. Penny.
So there may be a reason why our 2 selectmen are running unopposed, because they've done a damn good job. Because they've done a damn good job.
Okay, I was waiting for it.
So good luck to everyone running. I believe we only have 1 contested race, so there is a reason to come out. I do hope we have a decent turnout. Make sure you're safe going to the polls. But good luck to everybody. And then also, I know we've talked about it a lot. A reminder: Monday night, 7 o'clock, town meeting.
Thank you, Rich. Mr. Ryan.
I'm taking the night off. You guys covered everything. I want to thank town workers, Doug and Doug, Jen, Biz. All these are doing a great job. We don't realize how good we really have it. And the town moderator, you're doing a fine job too there, young fella. Keep up the good work. We'll see you at town meeting.
Thank you, Larry. So I'm all that stands between the adjournment of this meeting, huh? God, I don't know. I could filibuster, I guess, for an hour with all the topics going on in the world, but I won't do that. I'll just say this, just a reminder: 12 to 6 on Saturday, June 20th. Please come and vote for me, and if you have time for Cal, it's an important part of the process. And this situation in the world, the way it is, has made it somewhat challenging. But believe you me, Kara and I have both talked about this. We do appreciate everybody that out and votes for us. Our goal is to obviously beat the blank line. That's a distinction that a few have actually been reelected after losing to blank, which is frightening. So we appreciate it if you do come out and vote and continue to show us your support. We've both appreciated it over the last me over 3 years and Kara over the last year and a half. And with that said, just stay safe, Rockland, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Wow.
Second.
All right, I got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Mullen.
Yes.
Mr. Penn.
Yes.
Ms. Nyman.
Yes.
And myself. Meeting is adjourned. We'll see you guys on Saturday. Thank you.
Night.